Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista. We're in the kitchen today and we are going to get some projects accomplished. I have a really busy couple weeks coming up and I really need to get some food prepped in my freezer. I have been finding that we have been eating a lot of grilled cheese and soup lately. Not that there's anything wrong with eating that because those are definitely delicious, but I just wish that we had some more hearty, protein-rich meals in the freezer. So today we are gonna get prepped making some of those. I have a couple recipes that I want to get done. The very first project that we're actually going to get done, we won't be able to finish today, but I will kind of bring you along and show you how we finish the project. But we are going on a little bit of a trip, and one thing that we really like to have to make sure that we're getting our good protein is some jerky. So I'm going to get some jerky started today, and we're going to marinate it. Now I do have an Excalibur dehydrator, and that's what I'm going to use to dehydrate these. You do not need a dehydrator in order to make jerky. You can actually make it in your oven. You just want to cook it really low and slow. So around like 200, 250 degrees for, I believe it's like 5 hours. I'm not sure, but I can double check and let you know later on in this video. So I have a couple of different sirloin steaks here. I have 2 sirloin tip steaks and then 2 just regular beef sirloin steaks. You can use pretty much whatever cut you'd like to make jerky. I'm sure there's ones that make a better jerky, but I just honestly use what I have available. And then what you want to do is you just want to cut these into thin strips. Now I do leave some fat on mine, but like this is just way too much fat. So I'm going to cut this fat off. And there is a bone in this because we are using their sirloin steak. So I'm just going to cut the bone away as well. I like to save the bones and use those in like a beef stock. So I have a little bit of a collection of beef bones going in the freezer, and I'll just add this to the bag. You can do pretty much any type of marinade that you like on your jerky. We like to have a teriyaki jerky, and then the other thing that I'm going to experiment making, I just have to find it. We're actually going to experiment this time, and we are going to use some of our cowboy candy barbecue sauce. I will leave that video linked here for you guys if you want to check it out. This is our favorite barbecue sauce. So we're going to do a batch with that, and then I have some teriyaki sauce that I actually canned. I don't know if I did a video on this or not. I'm gonna check and see if we did a video on this or not, because if we didn't, I only have 3 more half pints left, and we do use quite a bit of this. So if I haven't done a video on that, then I will do one in the future, because this is such an easy pantry staple. Like, you can make easy teriyaki chicken whenever you want. It's just already done, and it is way more healthier than the store-bought stuff. Okay, so here's all of our meat cut up. I'm gonna open these jars before I touch the meat. So I have 2 freezer Ziploc baggies. I would definitely recommend using like a throwaway bag and not a reusable one. I don't really like to marinate my meat in the reusable kinds. I don't know, I have a phobia about not getting it clean enough. So I just use the throw up Ziploc baggies. It's a one-use thing. So we're gonna dump our teriyaki sauce into the bag with the meat. Now there is about 1.5 pounds of meat in each one of these bags, and we're just going to massage it into the meat. So we're gonna do the same thing with our barbecue sauce. Just try to get as much air out of the bags as you can, and then just make sure that you're really rubbing that sauce into the meat so that it gets all coated. And then what we're gonna do next is, once everything is good and coated with the sauce, is we're just going to put it on a tray, and then we are going to put these in the fridge for about 24 hours. Now you can leave them a little bit longer. You can not even do the full 24 hours. I've definitely only done like 12 hours before, but the longer you marinate these, the more of that flavor is going to be infused in the meat. So I like to do a full 24 hours on these. So my microphone died, so we're gonna go old school and hopefully we get some volume on this. I found the original recipe that I used to make my jerky with a long time ago. I'm gonna leave it linked for you guys because it does give you a really good recipe. It's a really good tasting one. We've just been preferring to use our teriyaki sauce lately, but it does give you directions if you are using an oven. So what you wanna do is you wanna heat your oven to 175 degrees, and then you wanna cook this for about 4 hours. So it's long, but it's not terribly long, so you can definitely make the jerky if you do not have a dehydrator. I'll leave this linked for you guys. Also, if you don't have like your canned teriyaki sauce or barbecue sauce, you'll just use 1 cup of that sauce to marinate the meat with. Next project we're gonna get started with is making some hamburger buns. I have shown you guys this recipe so many times. It is so good, and I have started to actually freeze the buns, and I love it. I love having the hamburger buns in my freezer. I love having the hamburger patties. Makes for a really quick meal on busy nights. I will leave the recipe below in the video description for you guys. I've done this video many times because I love having these buns. I just have to get out my yeast because this is not a sourdough recipe. This is just a yeasted dough, so you do not need to have sourdough to make it. So I'm gonna get out my activated yeast. So we're gonna get this yeast all ready because it does take about 10 minutes for it to get all nice and foamy. So we're gonna use 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. I'm just using an unbleached organic flour. And then we are gonna add 2 1/4 teaspoons of this yeast. Then we're gonna add in 1 cup of warm water. It says you want the water to be about 105. And then we're gonna whisk this together. And then we're gonna let that sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. So we're gonna make some hamburger patties and some meatballs. I love having homemade meatballs also in the freezer. I have my rimmed baking sheet and I have them lined with some silicone mats. It's easier cleanup. I actually need to go and get my meatball recipe. I forget all of the ingredients. Guys, I picked up a new cookbook at the Goodwill outlet this weekend, and I'm in love with this cookbook. There are so many delicious recipes in here that I am going to do during the pantry challenge. I'm so excited to show you guys. I am actually getting really excited for the pantry challenge. I love a challenge. I love having to challenge myself to use everything that I canned up, and that book I think is going to help with it a lot. There are some delicious recipes in that. We're gonna get that out of the way for now so that we can just get our burgers prepped because burgers are so quick to make. We'll get started with the burgers first. So I'm gonna use a pound of ground beef. My beef is about an 80-20 blend. It's probably a little bit more fat than lean. So I have a pound of ground turkey here. So these are gonna be like a turkey beef burger. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of mix this up and just break the meat up a little bit. And guys, even if you don't see me washing my hands, I can assure you I am washing my hands. I'm just not showing you guys every single time I wash them. I am so paranoid about cross-contaminating anything in my kitchen, so I probably get a little overboard when it comes to washing my hands after I touch meat, but I just don't wanna get that nastiness all over my house. It's a good way to get sick. So even if you don't see me doing it, I can assure you I am washing my hands. So we're gonna use our all-purpose seasoning blend in this. This is just pretty much a mix of like all of the seasonings that I use on a regular. So like onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, salt, pepper. I don't know what else is in this. I can't remember exactly. I don't have a set recipe for it. I just kind of add what I have and what I'm feeling like making at the time. We're gonna put a good amount of this in here. I'm gonna say maybe like 3 tablespoons. Get another bowl to crack my eggs in. And I usually like to add 1 egg per pound of meat when I'm making burgers. So we're gonna add 2 eggs in here because we're using 2 pounds of meat. And I always crack my eggs in a separate bowl because I don't want to ruin 2 pounds of meat if I get a bad egg. The other thing I like to add into my burgers, and you do not have to do this, I just like to add it, is I have some grated Parmesan here. I'm just gonna probably add about, because we're doing 2 pounds of meat, probably like 3/4 cup of this Parmesan. And it's just Parmesan like grated like this. It's not the like fine powder stuff. So I'm gonna add about a cup of breadcrumbs. And these are just some sourdough breadcrumbs that I made from old loaves of sourdough bread. I just grind them up in my food processor once they're good and stale. And that should be good. If we need to add more, we can after. So we're just gonna do the messy part and just mix it all together. Okay, and then we're gonna get our hamburger press. This is just a vintage Tupperware hamburger press. I think they actually still make them. I love this thing. And there's probably other brands that make them, not just Tupperware. They make these burgers a little bit thinner. Not like this much. It's probably like 3/4 cup of meat. then we're just gonna squish it down. And voila, we have a hamburger patty. So easy to make. When you order half a beef or quarter beef or a whole beef, whatever you're ordering, you can actually get them to make burger patties for you, but I think it's actually pretty expensive to have them do it. Plus this way I can control what I'm putting in my burger. I don't have to worry about like any fillers or, you know, stuff that I don't really want in that. This is a way I can control it, plus save a little bit of money. This is also a really good thing to do if you can find beef on sale, like ground beef, or even ground chicken or ground turkey. You can make burgers with them. Super easy to do. I like to make sure that I never run out of burgers in my freezer because we eat them honestly probably once a week because we really, really love it. If I'm not gonna be making a big elaborate meal that night and I need to have a quick freezer meal, it needs to be a quick freezer meal. So 2 pounds of meat got us some pretty nice thick burger patties. Because the meat I'm using, like the ground beef, is pretty fatty, these burgers are gonna shrink down a little bit when I go to cook them. So they may look like thick now, but they will not be that thick when I cook them. So we're just gonna get these into the freezer and we're just gonna flash freeze them. And then once they're frozen, I'll just put them in a Ziploc baggie. Project down. We're gonna get started on the meatballs next. So we're just gonna take 2 pounds of that ground beef and we're just gonna kind of break it up into little pieces again. So we have 2 pounds of meat in here. So again, we're gonna add probably about 3 to 4 tablespoons of this all-purpose seasoning. We're gonna get our eggs cracked in here. So again, 2 pounds of meat, I'm gonna use 2 eggs. About a cup of breadcrumbs. You can also use pinko breadcrumbs if you have them. This is just what I have. We're gonna add about 2 teaspoons of oregano. Then about 3/4 cup of this grated Parmesan cheese. And then we're gonna add about half a cup of milk to start. We may have to add more. Okay. Now we're gonna do the fun stuff of mixing it together. Now we're gonna get them rolled out into meatballs. This is about the size that I like to make them. Pretty big size. I will usually use these with like a pasta sauce, just add them to that, or I'll make like a meatball sub with these. I like them to be a pretty big size. I also have a really good recipe for a sweet and sour meatball, and I'll use these in those too. All right, so I'm gonna go and get these in the freezer, and then it looks like our yeast is all foamy, so we'll get the buns started next. When I was putting the meatballs in the freezer, I thought of a delicious supper that I can do tonight with them. So I'm gonna take some of those meatballs and I'm just gonna bake them in the oven until they're completely cooked through, and then I'm gonna put them into a saucepan with a little bit of that sweet and sour sauce that we canned up a while ago. I think it was maybe like 3 videos ago that I did it. And then I'm gonna put that over top of a bed of rice. I think that's gonna be a delicious supper. So now I have my supper idea. And it's gonna be quick and easy because those meatballs, they're already done. We just have to bake them. The yeast is nice and foamy now. You can see how it's all bubbly and happy. Okay, so to this bowl, we're gonna add 1 egg. We're gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar. You can definitely use honey in this as well if you like. And then we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of a melted butter. I'm just using a salted butter. I usually do, and it tastes perfectly fine. Then 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then we'll whisk it together. And then we're gonna add 3 cups of an unbleached all-purpose flour. We're gonna use our dough hook. I'm just gonna mix it on a really high speed until it kind of gets incorporated, and then I'm gonna put it down to a low speed. And then we're going to mix this for about 5 to 6 minutes until the dough gets sticky. I got this bowl greased with some oil. You can use a cooking spray. I just use an olive oil, and I just get a nice good coating all over the bowl. That should be good. And so this dough is nice. It's sticky, but it doesn't like stick to my hands. We'll roll it into a ball, put it in the bowl, and we'll just get it coated with that oil. And then we will just put a towel over top of it. We're gonna let this rest until it doubles in size. Now, depending on the heat in your kitchen, today my kitchen is not super hot, so it might take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to rise. So we're just gonna let that do its thing. I believe one batch makes 8 of them. Let me just double check. Yeah, one batch makes 8 of them, but they make 8 huge buns. So I actually end up usually making about 10 of them, because the 8, I just find it's like a sub bun. They're just huge. So I make them a little bit smaller than what it calls for. I usually end up getting about 10 of them. Okay, we're getting a lot done. So the next recipe we're gonna do is another one of those recipes that I'm gonna have to come back tomorrow and show you how we're gonna finish it. I was debating skipping this step and just kind of going to the breading part, but I think it's gonna be kind of required, and it make them taste a lot better if we marinate them overnight. So the next project, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some chicken nuggets. I love the option of taking chicken nuggets out, and you can either put them on a salad or you can just have chicken nuggets dipped in some sauce. I just love having them, but I am not a fan at all of the ingredients that are in those store-bought pre-made chicken nuggets. So we're gonna make our own, and we're gonna use some turkey and we're gonna use some chicken. So I have 2 chicken breasts here. So these are about 1 pound of chicken breasts. You can also use chicken tenders to make this recipe if you would like. You can cut these however you like them. You can cut them in strips and kind of make like a long chicken nugget, or you can cut them into little cube pieces and make like chicken, you know, bite-sized chicken nuggets. We're gonna do that. I was telling Steven about my idea of getting these chicken nuggets into the freezer, and he said you should make them like popcorn chicken size so that we can make like that KFC popcorn chicken bowl. So I'm gonna cut these into pretty small pieces because I wanna be able to have the option of making that popcorn chicken bowl. I've never had it before, but he says he's had it and he likes it. If you've never had it, from my understanding, what this popcorn chicken bowl is they take mashed potatoes and then they put some corn on it, and then they put these popcorn chicken pieces on it, and then put gravy on top of it. So we're definitely gonna try that. So I'm gonna make these into like littler pieces like that. They'll probably be bigger than the popcorn chicken size, but we can use these for more than just popcorn chicken. I'm thinking that I would like these on top of like a salad. I can make like a chicken Caesar salad with them. When I part my chickens out, I actually leave the chicken tenders attached to the chicken breasts. So I'm using some chicken breasts and some chicken tenders in this as well. If you like a dark meat, you could probably even get away with using like a boneless, skinless chicken thigh for this as well. Especially if you can find them on sale. Perfect. And then next up, we are gonna use a turkey breast. This is actually 2.5 pounds. This is only half of one of the breasts. The turkey breasts are huge. One side of the turkey breast is usually about 4 pounds. So I get about 8 pounds of turkey breast off of one turkey. It's crazy. I mentioned this on last week's video as well. Now is a really good time to stock up on your turkey. If you can find it on sale, this is a really good thing to do as well with that turkey. It's just another way to preserve it so that you have a quick, easy meal. So we have all of our pieces in this marinator. I'm just gonna take some buttermilk, and we're just gonna put buttermilk all over these. I just used a whole quart of it. We'll get a spoon, and we're just gonna stir these all into the buttermilk. We'll get our lid on. We will get these put into the fridge. We'll let those marinate for 24 hours, and then we'll come back tomorrow, and then I'll show you how we get them breaded. And then all you do is just put them in the freezer after you're done breading them. So I have one more project that I need to get done, and we are gonna make some chicken burgers, some breaded chicken burgers. I just seen this recipe on Instagram this morning, and I thought that is so perfect. It is making a healthier version of the McDonald's McChicken sandwich. So we're gonna make it. It is gonna be a really good recipe to go into the freezer, and then when we wanna use them, we can just take them out and put them in the air fryer or just put them into the oven. Right, to get started with the chicken burgers, we need to get out some seasoning. So I just need to get out my onion powder and my garlic powder. And then we need some paprika, do I use smoked paprika? Yeah, I'll use some smoked paprika. Now, I got this recipe on Instagram and I actually went and tried to find the guy's handle who actually put the recipe out. It was through a different Instagram page and they actually just linked his thing. So I don't know who the original poster was, and unfortunately I can't even give him credit for it. I did write the recipe down, so I will leave that in the video description for you guys. So I have 2 pounds of ground chicken here. The original recipe calls for 1 pound. Now also the original recipe, it's a European recipe, so everything is in Celsius and in grams. So I have converted it to cups and to Fahrenheit. So I'm gonna use 2 pounds of ground chicken in this because I wanna make about 8 patties. The original recipe says you will get 4 patties with 1 pound of ground chicken. I will give you guys the directions to make 1 batch of it, but just know I'm just gonna be doubling it. So if you see me adding more, that's why. So we're gonna add half a teaspoon of pepper to this ground chicken. 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, okay, then 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Okay, let's mix it together. Gotta wash my hands. Ugh. I got some parchment paper on top of a little tray here, and we are gonna get 8 chicken patties out of this. Well, we should get 8 chicken patties. I just remembered a very important step that he mentioned, to do this with wet hands. I'm gonna go back and do these. The first one actually is fine because my hands were wet and I did it. Alrighty, we need to find space for these in the freezer because these need to flash freeze for 15 minutes. You know what? I think our burgers are actually frozen enough that I can put them in a package. So we'll use that space. These. Can you find a spot for these? I keep my pasta in the freezer right after I get it. That way it kills anything that might be in it. So we'll just get these and just put these in this bag. Maybe we have a big bag of burgers already in the freezer. Perfect. Be for a quick meal. I'm gonna actually take this pasta and it's been in there for a while. So we will freeze those for 15 minutes and then we'll come back and get them breaded. Just took the chicken burgers out of the freezer. They were probably in there for about 20 minutes. We're not looking to freeze them. We're just looking to kind of firm them up. I have to be honest with you guys, I've never actually had a McChicken sandwich, but it looked really, really delicious. So that's why I'm doing it. Plus he says this sandwich is 45 grams of protein, which I am trying to increase my protein. So this is a really, really good way to do that. So when looking into this McChicken sandwich, apparently it's actually a breaded one with like a batter, but we're not gonna make a batter. We're just gonna bread it with some breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs that he used in the video, they were yellow. I don't know where to get yellow breadcrumbs here. I don't know what kind of bread that is that he's using. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna use some of my sourdough breadcrumbs and we're gonna use a little bit of cornmeal because I think that cornmeal will kind of add a little bit of that to it. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. This is gonna be an experiment. The recipe calls for 40 grams of breadcrumbs. Again, we're doubling it. So 40 grams is approximately 1/3 cup. We're gonna do the majority of it with regular sourdough breadcrumbs. And then we're just gonna maybe do about 1/4 cup. You know what, I need way more than this. We're gonna do about 1/4 cup of the cornmeal. Again, I'm doubling it, so this is why I have more in here. Okay, so to this, we want to add some onion powder, or actually, sorry, this is garlic powder. We're gonna add about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Then we're gonna go about a teaspoon of onion powder, and then a teaspoon of smoked paprika. The video, he just said paprika. I'm assuming it's not smoked paprika, but I love smoked paprika, so I wanna have that kind of smoky taste to them. Make them more barbecue-ish. So We will add that, and then we're gonna add just a little bit of salt. I'm gonna say like maybe 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then about 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And then we'll stir this up. We might need to add more to this. This might not be enough bread coating for it, but we'll see. We'll take our burgers, which are not frozen, but they're a tiny little bit firm, and we'll just press it into this. Flip it, press it into this. I just put the fresh parchment paper on there, so we'll get these added onto here. Okay, we have one tray done. This is what they look like. They're looking good. That is another project off of our list. So I'm gonna put these in the freezer because I just wanna have these as a freezer meal. If you want to cook them, you can cook them right from this stage. And what you would do is you would spray them with a cooking oil. It does suggest a light cooking spray. And then there's two different directions. So if you wanna make these in the air fryer, you're gonna preheat your air fryer to 375 degrees. And then you're gonna cook these for 12 to 15 minutes, flipping halfway through. If you wanna do these in the oven, then you are going to do these at 392 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're gonna do these for 15 to 18 minutes. So it's supposed to be a healthier version of the McChicken. It's not fried, so we'll see. I like having another option in my freezer when you're craving that. He also does post a McChicken sauce to put on the burger. I'll leave that below as well. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but when I leave the recipe in the notes below, I'm gonna put Celsius and Fahrenheit. That way everybody in the UK can still make this recipe because it'll be converted to grams and all of that. So, yay, we got another activity in. Let's check this bread. Oh. It's slowly starting to rise. It needs a little bit more time. Usually it gets like, starts to pop out of here, so it needs a little bit more rise time. So because we've got all of our activities done except for the bread, I am going to run quickly to my Amish. I need to pick up some more apples. We are running really, really low on them, and I can get a big box at the Amish for about $20. So I'm gonna go pick some of those up. If I can, I'll show you a little bit of what it looks like out there, but I usually can't film out at the Amish because they do not like to have that stuff out there. So if I can, I'll show you guys what it looks like. But otherwise, when I get back, we will get those buns made, and yeah, that'll be the last project for the day. So I will see you when I get back. Okay, we're here. I was procrastinating a little bit, and there was one box left on the clearance table there, and somebody just came and took it. So we'll have to see how much the apples are in here.
We're not getting a lot.
$2 All right, we are home. I did get a little tiny bit of footage, but you have already seen that. So I ended up getting this ambrosia apple. This is what they look like, and I paid $18, and that is a huge, huge bag. They unfortunately did not have any pink ladies left, but he said this mix was like a Honeycrisp mixed with a Evercrisp, I believe. Just washed my hands because we just got home, and I need to get those buns ready for their second rise. Yeah, it didn't rise much more than that, so that's fine. So we're gonna get the dough out of here. And remember, this recipe said to divide it into 8 pieces, but I honestly find that the 8 are way too big for buns. So I like to divide it up. It's like, that's 8. And this is what one bun would be like. And when it rises, it gets huge. So that's way too much. Probably cut that in half. So we got 11. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take them, and we're just going to make little balls with them. So I just like to fold them around here, and then just go like this, and then it kind of seals up the bottom. Oh, we need a cookie sheet out. We just need to put a little bit of flour down on our baking sheet, just a really thin layer. And then we'll put our dough down. We got them all rolled out. So what we're gonna do now is just flatten them like this. Then we're gonna lightly dust them with a little bit of flour on the top. And get these covered with a little piece of plastic wrap. And now we're gonna leave these for an hour. After the hour is when we're gonna cook them. So I will see you guys back once these do their second rise. We're ready to get these in the oven. So they got a nice rise on them. So what we're gonna do next is we are going to make an egg wash because we need to get the tops of these covered with the egg wash. So I'm just gonna take this plastic off. I also have my oven preheated to 375 degrees. To get the egg wash made, we're gonna take one egg. This is just one of my eggs. I have new Leghorn layers and they're just starting to lay. Our eggs are really small. So it's perfect for this because we don't need a big egg. So I'm just gonna add about 1 tablespoon of water. And we're gonna mix it up. You don't need to use water, you can use milk for this as well. Just take the egg wash and we're gonna cover the tops of these buns with it. Then I have some black and white sesame seeds, so we're just gonna sprinkle these on top. You do not need to add the sesame seeds, we just like them. So I like to put a nice coating of them on top. So it is okay if the buns are touching. I actually find I like when they touch because it just makes them a little bit more softer. So we're gonna get these in the oven. We are gonna cook these for 17 minutes. Our timer went off, so it's time to get these out of the oven. Look at them. So delicious. You want to let these just cool down a little bit before you open them up and use them. I would say let them cool for at least half an hour before you use them. I will be back with you guys tomorrow while we finish those chicken nuggets up and get the jerky into the dehydrator. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Good morning, guys. So we are gonna finish our projects up today. I really need to get this done because I have a busy work day today. I got all my stuff ready to go. So this is gonna be for the chicken nuggets. We'll do that after. But right now, I just want to get my jerky in the dehydrator because it should be done by the end of the day. We actually have to get our dehydrator turned on right now because we need to get it preheated. I have the Excalibur dehydrator and it actually gives you a little bit of a guide here on what to dehydrate things at. All right, so it says jerky at 165 or 74 Celsius. So we're gonna crank this up all the way to the beginning. And this usually takes about 12 hours. So I will set the timer at 12 hours and then we'll come and check them probably at about 8 o'clock. I didn't mean 8 o'clock, I meant 8 hours. It's early, my brain is not quite functioning this morning yet. I think this is the barbecue one. This is what it looks like after the 24 hours. So this is very messy. Just take the pieces out and we're just gonna lay them on here. I don't know if I showed this yesterday or not, but this is the thickness that I cut them. Some of them are cut a little bit thinner than others. This one's a pretty thick one. I try not to have them too thick because then it takes a long time for them to dehydrate. If they're too thick, those ones will take a little bit longer. But I also try to keep them pretty consistent in the sizes so that I don't get some that are complete like chips and some that are chewy. Okay, so this is the space that I like to leave in between them. You really want to be able to have the airflow get kind of all around them. It helps cook the jerky. This is definitely the barbecue one. I can smell the barbecue sauce. We got these put in here. Okay, we have the last 2 trays. We'll get them put in here. I had enough trays, which is great. Put the lid on. I love making jerky. It is such a really good treat, especially when you're on the road. The one downside to making it is those trays are really hard to clean. I literally have to soak them for 24 hours just to kind of get that sticky meat off of it. But the trade-off is good. I love having the jerky. Just wiping the counter down so that we can get started on our chicken nuggets. I want to tell you, last night we had those chicken burgers, like the McChicken. Amazing. Like, I literally don't even have words for it. Steven just kept saying over and over, these are so good. The recipe also came with like a mac sauce recipe, and I put that on it, and he loved that also, but he said you need to make these more often. So I'm probably gonna end up making another batch for the freezer because those were honestly delicious. We made them in the air fryer and it was just really good. So I'm hoping that these chicken nuggets are going to be the exact same thing. Well, not the exact same thing. I just mean that they're going to be as good. Okay, to get started making the chicken nuggets, the recipe was very vague. I actually found this on Facebook, and it wasn't a recipe. It was just somebody making a suggestion on what she does. So there was no ingredients listed. She just said, put your chicken in buttermilk, take it out the next day and season it with flour, and then put it in the freezer. She actually said seasoned flour. So I don't know what she seasoned her flour with, but I'm just gonna use, again, my all-purpose seasoning. This stuff's great. I'm gonna add about a cup of all-purpose unbleached organic flour into like this cake pan. That's how I like to bread stuff. It doesn't get everywhere. Bring you guys closer so you can see. I struggle getting this lid open because of this onion powder in it. It like causes like stickiness on the lid. Okay, so we're gonna add maybe like 2 tablespoons. I realized when I rewatched the footage, I'm like, I told them 2 tablespoons, and I'm watching it going, that is clearly like 1/4 of a cup. So it's just all on what your taste level is. Like, I want these nuggets to be highly seasoned, so that's why I'm adding this in, and probably realistically that was maybe about 3 tablespoons. I might add a little bit more, so we might be up into like 1/4 cup. Okay, for sure, I just added about 1/4 cup of my all-purpose seasoning. I'm definitely gonna have to make more seasoning, but I'm realistically thinking that this video is probably already like 45 minutes long, and I'm not trying to have an hour-long video. I mean, I love watching people cook, but an hour is just pretty intense. I'm gonna try to scale my video down a little bit. So I am gonna make some more of this seasoning, but I'm gonna show you guys on next week's video on how I make this, because I'm definitely in need of making some more. Stay tuned for that for next week, but let's get finished doing this. So here is our chicken and turkey in our buttermilk, and then we have our seasoned flour here. I'm just going to get a silicone lined baking tray, and this just has a nice big rim on it. It doesn't need to have a rim, but I just find with sometimes stuff can get a little messy. I like to have the rim baking sheets. Okay, so we're just gonna take our chicken and just douse it in this flour. You wanna get a really good coating on it. And we're gonna flash freeze them just like that. I'm keeping one clean hand because you never know when you need the clean hand. And after I get them coated, I'm just giving them a little shake to get the excess stuff off of it. So she didn't leave any directions on how to actually cook this, but I'm gonna cook this very similar to how I did the air fryer stuff. I am going to put this in the air fryer at 375 and probably do these for about 15 minutes, flipping halfway through. If you don't have an air fryer, you could definitely just fry these in a skillet, or you could just bake them in the oven. I would say bake these at probably about 350 and maybe give them a check after about 15 minutes. I don't own a deep fryer for a reason, because I would just deep fry everything, and honestly deep frying is not super healthy. The other thing with this that it doesn't mention, but I am more than positive you could do, if you are gluten-free, you could probably just use like a gluten-free flour, like an almond flour in this. And also, if you do not have buttermilk, one way you can actually make buttermilk is just by taking your regular milk. So if you do not drink dairy, you can actually just take like a nut milk, like a almond milk or an oat milk, and just add a little vinegar to that, let it curdle, and then you have buttermilk. So you don't necessarily need to have the dairy buttermilk. You could make your own. Okay, I'm gonna get these finished. We're gonna get them put into the freezer, and then we will be back. I'm excited. We're definitely having these for supper tonight. Steven actually just called me while I was making the flour mix, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just making the chicken nuggets for the freezer. He's like, are we gonna experiment with those tonight? And I'm like, you bet we are. Last night was a win with those chicken burgers. So I think tonight we'll do these, and we'll do like what I was talking about yesterday. We'll make like the KFC bowl. This is why I keep one clean hand. So we got them all breaded. It took a little bit to get them all done. It probably took about maybe 3 cups of flour and a whole bunch more of that seasoning. I ran out of the seasoning, so I just started throwing like random spices and stuff in it, like salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic pepper, you know, the regular spices we usually use in our cooking. I'm gonna get these put into the freezer, and we are gonna flash freeze these for a couple hours. After they're done, we'll throw them in a freezer Ziploc bag. We have another protein heavy meal in the freezer, which I'm really excited about. So that is gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love sharing with you quick and easy protein heavy meals. That is honestly what I need right now in this season of life. I've just got a lot of moving parts going on everywhere. So definitely happy to have that done, and we'll be eating good for a while, which is exciting. So again, thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this. And and also, I will come back and show you the jerky coming out of the dehydrator once it is done at the end of the day. So thanks again, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Bye. Turn that off so you guys can hear me. So it had 4 hours left, but I just checked them. They are definitely done. I'm actually chewing on one right now. Really, really good. These are the teriyaki ones. And then these are the barbecue ones. They're definitely done.